Welcome to the Poison Culture Podcast, where people of interest start our news. I'm your host, Kira Gregory. On this episode, I'm talking with my guest, Kira Gregory. She's a Hearth witch, and you may know her from the Hearthcraft. She makes candles, is a Reiki master, and a tarot reader, and also happens to be my wife. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Kira. Well, thank you for coming on the Poison Culture Podcast.
Of course.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about Hearthcraft, what you do?
Yeah, I do. Primarily, I started out with candles. It kind of evolved into me branching off into items that I wanted to create so that people could have a little bit of magic and protection in their home decor. So my candles I started out with, they are filled with Reiki and moon magic and a little bit of sugar and spice. And I also just came out with ritual bath oils that you can use on your body and in the bathtub. And I have ritual bath teas. So it's kind of like a play on the bath salts, but I wanted to incorporate using more herbs and flowers as opposed to salts.
For sure. And I think a lot of people, they can attest to the quality of your product. A lot of your returning customers, they really talk about how good it smells and how long and lasting it smells. And I think...
Yeah, definitely. I think being picky and OCD kind of... It was my calling, I think, to start making items for people just because quality control it's my number one. Quality control, safety, and quality. Yeah, quality.
I think a lot of your returning customers also talk about how good your scents really are.
Yeah.
And you don't have any off the store, off the shelf brand scents. You craft and make them yourself, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted something to kind of stand out. I craft all my own scents. It's kind of like the alchemy part that I enjoy about witchcraft is kind of like crafting and concocting and everything like that. So everything is very unique. I mix and match everything. My scent profiles that I do are generally memory based. So I wanted to kind of invoke memories in scents. Like, you know how you walk into like a place and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've been here before.
Totally, yeah.
And I wanted to like make that available to somebody at like, you know, the flick of a lighter that they could light, say like my sweet nothings. It reminded me of pancake breakfast when I was a kid.
For sure.
So I did that. So it kind of just brings back like a bunch of memories and emotions. And yeah, I think that's kind of what pushes my products to the forefront more than other candle makers.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of heart and soul in there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, what got you to name the company Hearthcraft?
So I come by it naturally of being a kitchen witch. And I'm also like really obsessed with plants. So I actually had been going back and forth between kind of labeling myself. I do like to have labels and names to everything. So I went back and forth between like a green witch and a kitchen witch, and I honestly just looked up and did research about there's got to be something that melds both of them. And Hearth Witch is all about just home magic, and it incorporates like the kitchen part of it and the plants, and yeah. Hearth Witch is home magic, so it kind of tied in perfectly with what I wanted to do and my branding and my company and what I wanted to offer people, that it mixes both worlds together for me, and it clicked. It was like a lock and a key, and yeah, it was perfect.
For sure. And as far as I've known you, you've kind of called yourself a witch. You've always been a witch. And
called myself, been called.
So what can you tell me a little bit about candle magic? What is it?
So candle magic is kind of the practice of putting in intentions into a candle, whether it's kind of like dressing the outside in symbolic ingredients that represent certain things for whatever you're trying to accomplish. Or you can, how I do mine is I actually infuse them with the intentions so that as you're burning my candles, you're getting like the memories and the intentions that way. But candles can represent like a whole bunch of things. There's like colors that are a big one. Like for instance, like green is often associated with like money and prosperity. Dark blue can kind of be like change, psychic stuff, emotional healing. Pink is always for love and friendships and kindness.
Oh, okay.
And brown is more for like home, grounding, physical healing. Black is always, everybody, I think when they think about candle magic, they think about black candles. And
right.
It's normally because it's for banishing or expelling negative energies. So usually when somebody is wanting to do something, it's usually associated with like luck, love, or banishing. And then you kind of get into like the gold candles where it's attraction and solar magic. Orange, I think, is like the law of attraction and mutability, stimulation, support, encouragement. Red is for strength and protection. It can sometimes mean sexuality and passion and courage. And then white is the other popular one for peace and protection, truth, binding. And purple, that's for the divine. Purple normally represents the divine feminine power and healing past wounds. And then yellow is the other one for it's like mental power, intelligence. It can also be for like the chakras too, right? So solar is the solar plexus.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess when you go into those witch shops, you see all those different kinds of different colors of candles. And I guess in a way that you do colors in your candles as well through crystals and everything like that.
I do, yeah. I do like to top my candles or even like my bath teas. The colors that are in there are all something that I want to represent whatever it is that the intention that I'm putting into the product.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess there's like so many more aspects to candle magic as well, right? Like,
yeah, like one of the, I think my main focal points when I was doing them was the elements.
Right.
It's pretty apparent that the elements of a candle are fire, obviously. You need air. So that's two of the elements. And then me putting in the crystals and the flowers or the herbs are part of the ground part, so the earth part. So I had 3 of them right off the bat. And that's kind of what made me go in the bath ritual direction, because I did want to incorporate the water aspect. Oh, yeah, yeah. So having all 4 elements represented is very powerful for when you're creating an intention. And it's a balance.
Right. So I've been going to the witches markets with you to help you sell your candles. And I think I've been really blown away by the different amount of people and witches that are there. And some of the most nicest people that I've ever met.
Absolutely.
And do you think, like, in today's society, like, being called a witch, I don't think it's actually a bad thing anymore, is it?
No, and I don't think it's ever been a bad thing. I truly think that we're coming into an age where the old stigmas and, dare I say, religious influenced thoughts are either starting to be seen for what they are, as just personal thoughts. And there's a lot of people that are kind of like finding their power and just saying, you know, F it. I love going to the markets and meeting either like-minded people or people who have an open mind that want to know about this. It's actually refreshing, I think, the more that I get into being comfortable calling myself that or being called that the amount of people that find you or you find to make it seem like we've all been a family for this whole time, but it's like, for some reason, been like a secret family. Yep. And yeah, like as we go on, I think the generations, as we progress, people are they're getting that F it attitude. People are coming into who they want to be. They don't give a rip what anybody else thinks or has to say about it. And I think it's, you know, putting people for a loop, especially those that have, albeit strong opinions or thoughts or whichever, concerning what other people do with their lives. Yeah. So, Yeah, I absolutely agree that as we're going on in the years that it's not changing. I think people are becoming more comfortable.
Oh, for sure. You know, and I think it's like the old stigma where it's like the hocus pocus or the practical magic witches, but it's like, it's not Hollywood. Like it's...
No.
It's people trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people out there that are getting more comfortable to find themselves.
Definitely. Like, I think the greatest thing that I have learned that there is a difference between paganism, witchcraft, and Wiccan. Obviously, two of those are religious followings.
Right.
Whereas witchcraft, in my opinion, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. It's how you choose to eat, sleep, and breathe when you are up during your day. It's how you, as a person, as a being, want to be at the end of the day. It doesn't really have much to do with who you worship, who you follow, what spells you do, what rituals you do, or that you even have to do any of that. It really is, in my opinion, it's a lifestyle.
Absolutely. I mean, like as I was saying before, like you say you're a Hearth witch, right? You practice Hearthcraft, right? Well, it's all about the house, home, cooking, the greenery, all that. And like, I know that to be true of you.
Like it's what I identify with. It's what makes me comfortable. It's what feels like home to me.
For sure.
The way that I choose to practice my life. It doesn't have the way that I practice it. There is no religious following to it whatsoever. It's nature-based. It's ebb and flow with the weather and the moon. It's ever-changing every day.
For sure. Yeah, I mean... And you love to have plants in the house.
Yeah.
Like this house is pretty green.
It's pretty planted.
Yeah. And you love to cook. I mean, big family gatherings. I mean, you've come from an Italian background, you know, so I kind of got married into that. Whereas, you know, that part of your witchcraft where you are making sure everyone eats well in this house.
Yeah, it's a love language. Witchcraft is a love language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me when you first started learning about your craft.
Well, see, that's like the funny thing. I don't know. I have always been attracted to that way of life, that way of living, that way of carefree freedom to be who and what you want when you want.
Yeah.
I more, instead of just learning about my craft, I made my way of life my craft. I chose what felt intuitively good for me. Like if I woke up one day and said, I want to do something for the house to bring in more balance.
Yeah.
You know, if emotions were high, I feel like this, house needs a good clearing, maybe a little self-protection because I intuitively felt that that's what it needed. I think that when you start leaning into your intuition, your intuition's kind of going to tell you what your craft is.
For sure.
There's a lot of people that I think struggle with like the labels of like what kind of witch you are.
Yeah.
I think everybody really loves taking those Facebook quizzes or whatever about what type of witch you are because, you know, you like the moon better than the high sun. But I struggled with like the label part of it for a really long time because it's like an identity thing. And I think the more comfortable that we get with not having to have a label, the more you can learn about what aspects of the craft draw you more towards it.
Yeah.
I think people need a lot of permission for that. People need to know that, you know, call yourself an intuitive witch then. You know, today I'm going to be all about the moon. Right. Next month I might be all about greenery or kitchen stuff. Yep. I identified more with like the hearth part of it just because home, like you were saying with like the family gatherings, home has always been my epicenter. That has always been my core. And it just intuitively made sense for me. Do I always follow that? Nope.
No.
Yeah. Some months I'm way more of like a lunar witch. I follow more of like the moon stuff. And like the next month, it'll be more of the green thumb, me putting more of like green witchery into my products and my business. And yeah, I think people just need to give themselves permission to just ebb and flow. The craft is a lifestyle, not a label.
I know you were just talking about clearing houses and all that. Like, how do you clear our house?
How do I clear our house? I like to do it a multiple of ways. I like to establish cleaning up the clutter. Clutter holds a lot of negative energy sometimes, you know, like I think there's a saying where you are what you are surrounded by. And so that is usually like my foundation. I'll make sure that like our house is like clutter free, clean. We clean up the doom piles. And then I wash my floors. I don't do anything special with like putting in certain herbs, or I know you can put in certain stuff in like the floor wash. I get everything all nice and balanced and clean. And then I myself love lighting either rosemary, eucalyptus. My favorite though is Palo Santo. I love the smell of it. I always have.
I do too.
Yeah, and I just go room to room. It's important to have the windows open because you have to think of it as like pushing out the bad. With the clearing that you choose of, and yeah, just doing it that way, and then close the windows up, but also make sure that you're filling the house with positive. Otherwise, it's just going to be an empty void, and it's going to feel uncomfortable, like sterile.
Yeah, don't underestimate the positive intentions.
Absolutely. Yin and yang, right? If you're going to get rid of the negative, be sure to follow it with positive. Right. So I normally will pair it with, like, we'll have a family game night or a movie night or something that'll bring, like, a lot of high emotion in the positive sense. And I think that just kind of, like, cherry tops how I clear the house.
For balance. Sure. Yeah. Do you put cinnamon out in the front door and all that?
I do. Enjoy that little ritual the first of the month where you blow cinnamon into the doorway and you say a little affirmation about abundance and wealth is going to find you in your home at the expense of none to others. And yeah, it's one of my favorite things. I'm actually coming out with a brand new product with that. So.
Ooh, do tell.
Who knows? Well, I don't want to give it away, but it might be out by the time this airs. I don't know, but it does have something to do with cinnamon.
I know there's so many other candle makers out there, especially in Okotoks and Calgary area. Yeah. What is one thing in your business that you didn't expect?
Success. I think the one thing that I didn't really expect, and I should have, it was one of those low esteem moments, was people actually wanting my products, having a want for them. Yeah. There's a difference between going to the market and being able to sell the ever living you-know-what out of the products that you have on your table. Yeah. But I think it's a whole other bag to be able to back it up with the joy and the passion of it. Mm-hmm. And that's really where my foundation was. I needed to enjoy making what I made, because if I could show people my joy that my products gave me, it's essentially showing them the potential joy that they could find in my products. Right. And I think I really underestimated how many people would connect with it. Mm-hmm. I really did. Everybody buys candles because they smell good. Yeah. That's a given. So I'm very picky with my scents, and I think it's very appreciated that I offer the type of scent profiles that I do, which do differ than what is out there. There is also a lot of phenomenal candle makers that make completely different than I do, and I adore their items. For sure. But yeah, I think showing people the joy and the passion that my own stuff gives me, our house is filled with my own stuff, is kind of a passive selling tool, really. If you show somebody how much you love something and you want to share it, that's the best form. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I actually really was surprised by the connection that people would get from my stuff. For sure. And I think a really good thing, just to tell people, is when we were at the market, I think 2 markets ago, a woman came up to you and asked you about how you make your candles, because she was actually just starting out. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you handed her your card and said, if you have any questions or anything, let me know. You were willing to help people out. Of course. I firmly believe, and I did that like right out the gate when I started making candles and doing all the burn tests and the scent profiles and how much to add to the wax and how, you know, you should measure it in order to get the appropriate, like there's such a scientific approach to it, as I'm sure like many makers listening to this will know. I'm an open book. I don't think it should be gatekept as to how to make, in my instance, how to make a candle.
Right.
Like, why would I not want to be a cheerleader for other people to find their joy?
Exactly.
Like, that goes against my very being. I will never hide anything like that. I have no problem talking to makers that do the exact same thing as me and talking shop, and I have zero issues. So when she approached me about, you know, I'm having issues with how the wax does this or that when this happens, and yeah, I have zero issue telling her what I do and to see if it works for her in like where she's making her stuff.
For sure. And I think that's just a good life goal in itself. It's just to get rid of competition.
Competition is an imaginary word.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Competition is not in my vocabulary. Do I like a healthy competitive attitude? Totally. It gives my mojo like a boost. Like it makes me want to like, yeah, dig in my claws into it and let's go. Like, as you can attest, I have a great competitive streak, but competition, no, there is no person in this world that I don't want winning.
Oh, for sure.
There is none.
Yeah.
I could despise you into the end of the planet. Do I want you to not do well? No, I want you to do well.
For sure.
Always.
Absolutely. So I know when I started this podcast, I knew that I just wanted to have a voice. I know there's tons of other podcasts out there that people can listen to, but I just wanted to make something different in your field and all that. Like, who do you think, like, what's your favorite brands? Like, who do you think is just doing business right?
Oh, I have so many people in my life. I'm so very fortunate. I have so many people in my life that entrepreneurial wise are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, off the top of my head, like when you say, like, not, for instance, not candles per se, but business wise, I have an amazing group of women that I look up to. Shelly with Transitions with Shelly.
Yeah.
She's an amazing human being. She helps people with grief and light work and yoga, and she's just sound healing. Like, I've been to a couple of her sound healing sessions, and it's mind altering. She's amazing. I have Tamara, who is a phenomenal yoga instructor. I actually just took a yoga class with her just this past winter, and she made me fall in love with my body's movement again. Like, she's a phenomenal person. Amber, she is a wonderful human being that is in the Cochrane area, and her and I took our Reiki Masters together.
Okay.
She is a frickin' light in this world that anybody would be blessed to even have any kind of work by her done. And Tanya, who actually I Facebook and Instagram stalked for years. Like, years. Sorry, Tanya. Creepy. But you actually might appreciate that. For tarot, like, she inspired me to be more comfortable with my journey with tarot.
Yeah.
And her and I also took our Reiki Masters last summer together. And yeah, so like, entrepreneur-wise, I am blessed to be absolutely surrounded by phenomenal female entrepreneurs that way. Candle making, the first one off the top of my head, somebody who I adore is Heart of Gold Apothecary. Again, somebody who's in my hometown area. Her candles come with beautiful crystals and beautiful adornments on top, and I feel no competition with her at all. She makes phenomenal items that I buy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I want to support everybody, and she is a beautiful human being on the inside and out. And I'm trying to think, there's so many people. Rose and Raven, she's an amazing witch who lives in central to northern Alberta, and her products are phenomenal. I love her candles. I used to have like tons of them, and I ran through them so quickly because I would have them going so often.
Right.
Yeah, those are the ones I can just... There's so many more. I'm sorry if I forgot you. But yeah, there's so many more that I'm so thankful to have been either inspired by in one way or another, or just blessed to watch.
Even going to the witches markets with you in Calgary.
Yeah.
There is so many good creators in our area.
It's phenomenal.
Oh, I know. Like, it's hard to keep your wallet in your pocket when you're there.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So here's an offbeat question for you.
Yeah.
I usually ask my guests, well, you're my first guest, so...
Preemptive.
Yeah. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose? I know for myself, it would probably be Blackbeard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a pirate freak. Yeah, for sure. But who would you choose?
That's a tough one. The first name that popped into my head was RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I would love to just shoot the shit with her.
Absolutely.
I would have loved to have been able to do that. I think her stories, I bet you the stories that she had of just like her position in life and everything that she went through and did for really everybody, but particularly like the female.
Yeah.
I think her stories would probably just be, I think, get like a good bottle of wine in her and the stories would just be rolling. I think they would be absolutely phenomenal and hilarious.
That's a good answer.
She's got a dirty streak. We all know it.
So what can people expect next from Hearthcraft?
I'm definitely going to be continuing just intuitively diving into the home items. Yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of new products dropping here probably fairly soon after this podcast. Just things that make witchery like an everyday thing.
Oh, for sure.
Like to remind people that, you'd probably be surprised about the everyday witchery that you already do. And so I want to make sure that everybody has access to that. So if you can't have flame or smoke in your area, but you still want to do this, I want to have options for those type of people.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to be coming out with a whole bunch of items that people can rely on to be able to get their everyday witch on comfortably.
Sure. Definitely. And where can listeners come to support you? Where are you online?
I'm on Instagram primarily. That's kind of my drug of choice is Instagram. I do believe my handle is at @the_Hearthcraft. And you can find me on Facebook too, but honestly, Instagram is kind of where I go primarily. I do have a TikTok. I have fun with making the reels and everything like that. And the same thing, my handle is the Hearthcraft on TikTok. But yeah.
Right on.
I do have a website too.
What's your website?
www.thehearthcraft.com. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for being a part of the Poison Culture podcast.
Anytime.
Thank you again for Kira for coming on to the Poison Culture podcast. I hope you enjoyed this little look at the Hearthcraft and Hearth Witchery. Find us on Instagram at Poison Culture Podcast. As always, until next time, stay spooky.